Emma Carter had always believed that love revealed itself in small changes, tiny shifts in tone. Pauses that lasted a second too long. Smiles that dimmed a little faster. She had lived with Daniel for 11 years, long enough to sense when something quiet was moving inside him. That month, the changes were impossible to ignore. He wasn't cold or distant, distracted in a way that suggested his mind kept drifting somewhere she couldn't follow. It began subtly. He lingered by the window longer at night. He looked at old college photos on his phone, never explaining why. He laughed at jokes, but stopped a moment too early. And he touched his ring more than usual, turning it slowly as if thinking about the promises wrapped inside it. Emma didn't panic. Daniel wasn't the type to lie or hide. But she could feel an emotional weight gathering behind his calm expressions. One evening, the soft glow of the fireplace filled their Seattle living room. Rain tapped gently on the windows, creating a kind of quiet that made people speak truths they usually avoided. Emma watched Daniel stare into the flames, his face thoughtful, almost nostalgic. She knew that expression. It wasn't sadness. It was memory. Deep, complicated memory. "Daniel," she said gently, sliding closer. "What's on your mind?" He blinked out of his thoughts, offering her a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm fine, really?" She shook her head. He didn't have to pretend. They were long past the stage where one had to hide to protect the other. "Talk to me. You've been different." For a moment, he stayed silent, searching for the right place to begin. Then, with a voice softer than the rain, he murmured, "It's nothing bad. I've just been thinking about old friends." Emma didn't need him to say any names. She already knew who he meant. Lily Harrington. The name carried its own kind of history. She wasn't a threat or a ghost of an old romance. She was simply someone who had mattered to. Daniel, before life, had chosen a different path. Lily was a person he once leaned on, a friend who understood the earlier version of him. The one who lived before careers, mortgages, and grown-up responsibilities. For Emma, Lily had always been a quiet presence in their marriage, not a rival, but a story Daniel had never fully closed. Emma leaned back on the couch, her heartbeat steady. She didn't feel jealousy, only a kind of tenderness for the man beside her who rarely allowed himself to be vulnerable. "Do you miss her?" she asked calmly. Daniel hesitated before answering. "Not in the way you might think. I just miss what she represented. We talked about everything back then. She was like a mirror. It's strange how someone who once felt so close can vanish from your life." His honesty didn't hurt Emma. In fact, it made her trust him more. People didn't stop existing simply because you got married. Love required understanding the whole person, even the parts shaped by someone else. Emma rested her hand on his. "It's okay to miss someone who mattered." Daniel laughed softly, almost bitterly. "You're too understanding." "I'm married to you, not your past," she replied. He squeezed her hand gently, but she could tell he still carried something deeper, something unsaid, something that had been quietly building inside him. She didn't push him further. She just watched him, memorizing the way he looked when struggling with old emotions. There was no anger in his eyes, no conflict, only a kind of ache that came from remembering a piece of life left unfinished. That night, after Daniel fell asleep beside her, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts moved quickly, like the storm clouds above the city. She wasn't upset. She wasn't insecure. She was simply aware that marriages were not made of perfect moments, but honest ones. And honesty sometimes meant facing things you would rather keep quiet. She thought of Uli. She remembered the few times they had met. Lily had a calm aura, a gentle voice, and a kindness that made people open up without meaning to. Emma liked her maybe more than she wanted to admit. There had always been an unspoken understanding between them. They both cared for the same man, in different ways at different times in his life. Emma sat up, pulled the blanket around her shoulders, and walked to the window. The city lights blurred in the rain, glowing softly like distant stars. She took a deep breath as an idea formed in her mind, an idea so bold it almost scared her. Marriage wasn't about possession. It wasn't about controlling feelings or burying past attachments. It was about trust, about giving your partner the space to heal or revisit old connections when needed. It was about walking with them through every emotional turn, even the uncomfortable ones. And maybe this was one of those turns. She opened her laptop and typed Lily's name into Facebook. Her profile appeared instantly, smiling, confident, still carrying the same open warmth Emma remembered. She had moved back to the West Coast a few months earlier. She lived just 90 minutes away. Emma stared at the message box for a long moment. Then, with a steady breath, she typed, "Hi Lily, this might feel sudden, but I think it's time we all reconnect. Could we meet?" Then she pressed send. Her heart pounded after she did it. She wasn't sure if she was doing something courageous or incredibly naive. But deep down, she felt it was right. If Daniel's heart held unanswered questions, she wanted him to face them with honesty, not silence. The reply came the next morning. "Emma, I'd love to see you. And Daniel. It's been too long." They agreed to meet at the Carter home on Saturday. Lily didn't ask why Emma reached out. She simply accepted, as if she too carried her own quiet, unfinished story. Saturday arrived faster than Emma expected. She cleaned the living room twice, then told herself to stop. She wasn't preparing for a fight or confrontation, just a conversation. A simple, real one. Daniel had gone out to run errands and was due home in an hour. Emma knew she was taking a risk. She knew he might be shocked or even upset, but she believed the truth deserved its moment. Right on time, there was a gentle knock at the door. Emma's breath caught. She opened it slowly. Lily Harrington stood there, wrapped in a long beige coat, her auburn hair slightly damp from the Seattle air. Her eyes widened with surprise and warmth. "Emma? Wow, you look wonderful." Emma smiled nervously, stepping aside. "Come in." As Lily entered the house, the air shifted softly but noticeably. She looked around, her eyes taking in the home Daniel and Emma built together. Her expression wasn't jealous or sorrowful. It was tender, almost grateful, like she was stepping into a chapter she had once left unfinished. They sat on the couch, facing each other like two people who understood the emotional weight of what they were doing. "I'm really glad you reached out," Lily said. "I wasn't sure if it would ever happen." Emma folded her hands in her lap. "I thought it was time. Daniel has been thinking about you. Not romantically, just emotionally." Lily's eyes softened with understanding. "He was my closest friend once. Losing that always felt like losing a part of myself." Emma nodded. She didn't flinch or look away. "He needs closure. Maybe we all do." Lily exhaled slowly, almost relieved. "I'm glad you see it that way. I didn't want to be a shadow hanging over your marriage." "You're not," Emma said. "You're just part of his story, and our marriage is strong enough to face that." Lily smiled, grateful, touched, unexpectedly emotional. Then the front door clicked. Emma's heart raced. Daniel stepped inside, shaking rain from his jacket. When he looked up and saw Lily sitting in his living room, the world seemed to stop. His eyes widened, stunned. His breath caught in his throat. He turned slowly to Emma, confusion and disbelief mixing in his expression. "Emma, what is this?" She stood up, meeting his eyes with steady calm. "I invited her," she said softly, "because this conversation is long overdue." Daniel stared at her, searching for the reason behind her courage. Lily stood too, her voice quiet. "Hi, Daniel." And in that moment, one full of emotion, history. And Truth 3 lives paused at the edge of something none of them could yet understand. A moment that would change everything. Daniel stood frozen in the living room, his eyes locked on Lily as if the years apart had been erased in a single heartbeat. Time seemed to slow. Emma's calm gaze met his, silently assuring him that everything was safe. That this was not a threat, but an opportunity, a moment that demanded honesty. Daniel's chest tightened, a mix of surprise, relief, and nervous excitement rushing through him. He had thought about this reunion for years in his quiet moments, imagining scenarios, rehearsing words he never dared to say. And now it was real, here in his home, with the two people who mattered most to him, his wife. Emma, and his oldest, dearest friend, Lily. Emma's hand brushed his arm lightly, grounding him. He looked at her and saw the trust and understanding in her eyes. The kind of love that didn't judge, that didn't compete, that simply accepted. That love had allowed him to carry his past without shame, without regret. And now, with a deep breath, he stepped fully into the room, trying to reconcile the swirl of emotions he felt. Excitement, nostalgia, longing, had a strange sense of relief, all collided at once. Lily took a small step toward him, her eyes glistening softly. "Daniel, it's been too long," she whispered. Her voice was calm, but held an unmistakable depth of emotion, the kind that only years of unspoken feelings could create. She didn't move to hug him immediately, as though both feared the intensity of their own memories. Instead, she let the moment breathe, letting the air carry the weight of what had never been said. Daniel swallowed hard. "It has," he admitted, his voice catching slightly. I wasn't sure if this moment would ever happen." He shifted his gaze to Emma, who gave him the gentlest of nods. "Thank you. For this," he added quietly, "all of this." Emma smiled, feeling a soft warmth spread through her chest. She could see the gratitude in Daniel's eyes, and a deep respect in Lily's. No awkwardness, no tension. Just a careful and deliberate opening of old doors, and a willingness to face the past with honesty. She felt proud not of orchestrating this meeting, but of her ability to trust both the man she loved and the woman he had once cared for. It was not an easy kind of bravery, but it was the kind that strengthened love instead of weakening it. Lily settled into the couch across from Daniel and Emma. Her movements deliberate, her posture relaxed but attentive. She seemed to take a moment to absorb the surroundings, to feel the presence of a life she had been absent from for years. "I never wanted to leave," she said finally, her voice low. Life happened. Things got complicated. And I didn't know how to stay in your world without causing harm." Her eyes flicked to Emma for a brief instant, and in that gaze was the recognition of the respect and kindness that allowed her to be here now. Daniel reached for her hand. A small, tentative gesture that spoke volumes. "I felt the same," he confessed. "I thought I had lost the chance to ever talk to you like this again. And then Emma made it possible. She made it feel safe." He looked at Emma, a deep, profound gratitude shining in his eyes. She smiled back, squeezing his hand gently. There was no rivalry here, no jealousy, only understanding. Only love that had matured enough to embrace all of its complexities. The three of them began to talk. At first it was small talk, memories of college days, shared jokes, and old routines. But gradually the conversation shifted to deeper truths, moments of regret. Choices that had been hard to make, and emotions that had been buried for far too long. Each sentence was careful yet honest. Each pause was filled with meaning, not discomfort. Emma watched the way Daniel listened to Lily and the way Lily looked at him, and she realized that love, when allowed to breathe, didn't diminish. It expanded. It included rather than excluded. It healed rather than hurt. As the night deepened, laughter mingled with quiet sighs. They recalled moments that had been lost to time, the long study sessions, the late-night walks, the conversations that had shaped who they were. Lily's voice carried a soft warmth, almost musical in its cadence. Daniel's eyes lit up in ways that reminded Emma why she had fallen in love with him so many years ago. And Emma felt her heart swell with something she hadn't expected: pride, admiration, and the quiet joy of witnessing something beautiful unfold. Lily leaned back, her gaze settling on Emma. "I don't think I could have met anyone like you and felt this." "Accepted," she admitted. "Most people wouldn't open their home, their hearts, to someone like me. And yet, here we are. I feel grateful. Truly." Her voice cracked slightly, just enough to betray her emotions. And Emma felt the lump rise in her throat. "It's not about the past," Emma said softly. "It's about the truth and the love we share. And sometimes the truth needs a voice, no matter how uncomfortable it feels." Her eyes met Daniel's, and he understood instantly. She wasn't judging him for his memories, nor questioning his loyalty. She was simply acknowledging that a life fully lived includes people who shape it, and love can survive that recognition. In fact, it can grow stronger because of it. Daniel exhaled deeply, leaning back into the couch. I didn't realize how much I needed this, he admitted. I thought I was okay holding it all in, but now, talking to both of you, being honest, it feels like a weight I didn't know I was carrying has finally lifted. He turned toward Lily, a gentle smile forming. And I see now that some bonds are never truly broken. They just wait for the right time to be acknowledged. Lily nodded, a soft tear gliding down her cheek. I thought we lost each other forever, she said. But maybe we just needed someone brave enough to open the door. Emma's hand reached for hers, squeezing lightly in reassurance. That's all it took, she said. Bravery and honesty. Everything else flows from there. The rain outside had stopped, leaving the city's streets wet and glimmering under the streetlights. Inside, the warmth of the fireplace and the glow of understanding filled the room. It was a small, quiet magic, a moment that didn't scream for attention but demanded acknowledgement. The three of them sat in the silence that followed, each person lost in their thoughts, yet comforted by the presence of the others. No one felt alone. No one felt insecure. Only connection, understanding, and the gentle unfolding of hearts. Eventually, the conversation turned toward life as it was no careers, dreams, and relationships that had matured over time. Daniel shared updates about his work, his small triumphs, and moments of challenge. Lily spoke of her new projects, the places she had traveled, and the lessons she had learned. Emma added her own experiences, her joys and struggles, her ways of keeping their marriage alive and meaningful. It wasn't just nostalgia anymore. It was the weaving together of the past and the present, creating a richer tapestry of their shared experiences. Lily stood eventually, signaling it was time to leave. She walked slowly toward the door, pausing to turn back. Thank you, she whispered, almost reverently, for letting me step back into this part of my life. Even for a night. I needed this more than I realized. She gave Daniel a warm hug, brief but heartfelt, and then a soft, acknowledging nod to Emma, a silent promise of respect and understanding after she left. The room felt different, lighter, calmer, yet filled with a quiet energy that only honesty can create. Daniel turned to Emma, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. You didn't just give me closure, he said softly. You gave us both strength. You gave us trust. Emma rested her head against his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. I just gave space to what needed to be spoken, she replied. Love isn't about holding everything in. It's about allowing the truth to breathe. Daniel kissed her forehead gently, a gesture full of affection, reverence, and gratitude. That's why I fell in love with you, he murmured. His voice was low, intimate, carrying a depth that only years of shared life could cultivate. Emma smiled. And that's why we're still here, she said. The statement was simple but powerful. It captured years of love, trust, growth, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths. It acknowledged that love in its purest form wasn't about passion alone, but about honesty, resilience, and the willingness to embrace every chapter of life, even the ones shaped by others. As they turned off the lights and walked together toward their bedroom, the quiet night enveloping their home, Emma felt a deep sense of contentment. Not the kind that came from excitement or thrill, but from the calm, unshakable knowledge that love had grown stronger through trust, understanding, and shared vulnerability. The evening had not been about rivalry or jealousy. It had been about connection, healing old wounds, acknowledging the past, and strengthening the bond that held them together. Some marriages are strengthened not by holding tighter, but by allowing space for truth to be spoken, for memories to be honored, and for hearts to be courageous enough to face what they have avoided. Emma and Daniel had lived this truth tonight, with Lily as a witness and participant in a story that neither time nor distance had diminished. It was a rare, delicate kind of magic, one that left them with a renewed sense of love, a deeper respect for each other, and a profound understanding that life's complexities when embraced with honesty, could make love even more enduring. The night ended with a quiet embrace of two people who had navigated the delicate balance of past and present, guided by courage and mutual respect. Their love had not just survived the revelation of old emotions, it had flourished because of it. Emma felt it in every heartbeat.